What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA Hardwood Show. Excited to be back. Excited to be doing this daily with you guys. Just love the NBA. It's going to be a fun time. We also have NFL going on, and today is, I think they're calling it the sports equinox. Is that what they're calling it? Every sport's going on, right? We got MLB, hockey, NBA. Should be a fun time. DC, I'll go to you first. Obviously, tons of sports to watch tonight, but you decided to go touch some grass today and go out for a nice hike. So tell the people about your day.
Yeah, morning hike with the pup in the snow. Climbed a mini mountain outside Denver. It was a good time, and back to have a really fun night of sports. Obviously, we've got the 11-game NBA slate, but also Monday Night Football and the World Series. I guess I'll pass on the hockey. 3 sports is enough for me tonight, but looking forward to it. Looking forward to the show, and hopefully picking some winners here.
Yeah, I'll pass on the hockey too, but that's why we have a hockey team to take care of that, right?
Yes.
They'll spread it out for you. We have a Discord. If you're a hockey guy, you are somehow stumbling upon here. We got that for you, so don't worry. AP, I'll go over to you next. How's the day going? And are you excited for some NBA tonight? A little 11-game slate that we got on our hands.
Yeah, it looks like a really nice slate. Excited. Yeah, excited to break it down with you guys. The contests look good. We got football tonight. Should be a good showdown slate. We'll see. Me and Rubio broke that down earlier in the SaberSim show. Got to go and check that out if you haven't yet. But yeah, we got a nice slate. I mean, some really good early games and then some news. Like I thought, I was like so confident that LeBron and AD might sit tonight, but we got the probable tag right by LeBron. So overtime game last night. We'll obviously talk about that. 40 minutes, year 21. #Washed King is playing back-to-backs, allegedly. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not planning for the LeBron stuff. We do have crew in the chat says, doesn't look like there is much injury news. I mean, I don't know about that. We got some guys that are questionable going into tonight. OG Anobi's got the questionable tag. Precious has the doubtful. Kyrie is questionable. Kuminga and Klay Thompson, questionable. And Bam Adebayo, questionable as well. So, we do have guys that are questionable. That could change some things up. Now, I'm not saying it's going to change it all up and make you just jam in on some plays, but there are some big ones that could do some stuff. I think the Kyrie stuff, I think the Bam stuff could be interesting, but we'll dive through it when we go game by game and break it all down. Let's see. AP, how about you do this? Give a little slate overview for the people. You have been crushing it so far. I think you won an NBA slate on that first Tuesday. You won on Monday. So it's a nice little streak going for you. Also hit on your play of the day, Jahan Dotson, who I also had in my course. So sure you had a pretty good day of NFL. So tell the people a little bit about a nice little slate overview kind of leading into this thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you head over to the heat map, you'll see Ben Simmons is core play tag on the slate today. So that should tell you everything that you need to know about this slate. But we'll talk about that game. I fired an over on that game right when it came out yesterday. It was like 226.5, already up to 229. LaMelo, like the pace in these Hornets games are just really elite, and the Nets rolled out a super tight rotation. So obviously I think that's going to be a great game. But like we talked about before we started the show, we do have some injury news. I believe Kyrie Irving questionable. So it's kind of one of those risk rewards. Do you wait for the news or do you jam in some of these projected elite early plays? That's kind of what the decision is going to be tonight.
Yeah, and you know me, I like to wait, right? I'm always down for waiting around. We'll see if I do it tonight. There are routes where you could obviously like just put Luka in, and Luka's a good play with or without Kyrie, right? But obviously we will break it all down as we kind of dive deeper into these games. DC, I'll go over to you. What's your like kind of slate overview? For me, when I kind of looked at the slate, I saw, hey, we got a lot of the Nets value that's going to be interesting for sure. And our guy Bobby H, I did the pod with him last night, and he texted me today. He said, 3 to 4 Nets. Is it that kind of night? And I was like, I mean, I don't think you need to. It's an 11-game slate, but clearly good values here that we have to like, right, DC?
Yeah, for sure. Good values there. And Luka, I mean, he's been on an absolute tear to start the year through 2 games, obviously a small sample size, but dude looks like he's on a mission, and now maybe no Kyrie. Good matchup too. We'll talk about that more when we get to that game. But, you know, if you do plug in the 12K Luka, certainly you're kind of right off the bat searching for value because he is very expensive, I think. And speaking of the Nets, some of the worst chalk I've ever seen. Well, ended up being the worst chalk I've ever seen on Friday, Day'Ron Sharpe. He was over 50% owned I believe in the DraftKings flagship tournament. Played a grand total of 3 or 4 minutes. I ended up stuck with him. I had a whole bunch of early players, and I couldn't swap off even after the news came out that he wasn't starting. I'm sure some people got off of him, but obviously most people ended up sticking with him. But just a reminder that, projections, chalk, it doesn't always come through, right? There is still room to make your own reads, and no better example of that than by far the most popular on the slate, player on the slate, Day'Ron Sharpe, getting 3 total minutes of playing time. So just a reminder that, the numbers, the sims, they don't always have it right.
Yeah. Another thing too, Nabi says in the chat, preach DC, easy fade. I don't think it was as easy because DC got stuck on him. I got stuck on him on both.
I wanted to swap, and I really couldn't. I had Chris Paul in there. I didn't want to move off of him, so I just kind of went with it. He was super cheap, which makes it much harder to swap. There really wasn't anyone to go to on a 1v1.
Correct. And when you looked at the 2v2s, and I cashed both my teams with him, so it didn't matter. There was a lot of really strong mid-tier plays. And when you would upgrade those mid-tier plays or downgrade, it just didn't make sense. When everything was locked, that 4 and 5K range was kind of a dead zone, unless you went to Dorian Finney-Smith or Royce O'Neal. And listen, I know hindsight is 20/20, right? But the point I'm getting at is when you're sitting there before lock and, hey, this slate, how good do you feel about Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith? Even after what I watch, I don't feel great about them. I think they're fine. They're okay, but I'm not slamming the lock button on those guys, right? DC, that's kind of the point we're getting.
Yeah, I actually I had 3 lineups on Friday, and I ended up playing both those guys in, one lineup each, but just couldn't get off Day'Ron Sharpe even though I wanted to.
Yep, definitely could be tough. I wanted to jam Cam Thomas in, and I got him on one at least, so that was nice, and it ended up working out for me. So all in all, it was good. We'll see how we handle the Nets tonight. Before we dive in, guys, please hit that subscribe to the channel. We would appreciate it a ton. We got 213 of you watching. We know what JT likes to say. We get halfway through, we'll pick a number, and then we'll give out the plays of the day. And listen, AP gave you Jahan Dotson yesterday, right? The man is on a heater. You want to hit the like. You want his play of the day, so get it in there. But let's move this thing along. So the first 3 games that are at 7 o'clock, right? And I like to talk about it kind of in windows. This is going to be a time when all these games lock. And these are some important games to discuss because we have 2 teams in Washington and Indiana that are very up in pace in different games. And then we have the Nets and Charlotte game, which Charlotte's a team that we like to attack too with the Nets values. There's a lot of fantasy goodness at the beginning of the slate. And that's why AP was saying to me at the start of the show, it might be AP 777 where he's out in front just stacking up the games and letting people catch them. We'll have to see. Let's go to Washington and Boston first. And AP, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Washington is a team that we always want to target, right? Every single time that I look at a slate, I'm going to say before we even open it, is Washington on the slate and who are they playing? The problem is they are playing the Boston Celtics. Now, nothing wrong with the Boston Celtics. They're a great basketball team, but fantasy-wise, the situation is more crowded and the pricing is expensive. Now, besides Jaylen Brown on FanDuel, 7.4K and just clearly underpriced over there. Tatum, 10.5. He has to do a lot to kill you. Porzingis, really good spot. Bigs get destroyed by the Wizards, 8.3K. Even if Porzingis got you 50, I would argue you don't need him on the winner. Is that a good score? Would I sign up for 50? Yes, 1,000%. But it is not technically a just optimal guaranteed winning score. Jaylen Brown, 7.8. Drew Holiday, 68. And Derek White at 5.9. I know he put up 49 the other day, but listen, I'm okay with betting on not having Derek White and Drew Holiday kill me for 50-point games. So, AP, kind of break this thing down because I think Boston is really tough to tackle in a great matchup. And Washington, some of their prices have gone up, and this is not an ideal matchup for some of these guards like Poole and Tyus Jones.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean, Boston favored by 10 points on the road. It kind of indicates, what they think is going to happen here against this bad Wizards team. I will say Wizards coming off a dub. But they have it was against Memphis, and Memphis just in shambles right now, obviously down a bunch of key players. But I don't like this Wizards rotation. It's really tough for DFS. Daniel Gafford also is questionable, more so unlikely to play, mispractice, I believe sprained ankle. I'm really curious to see what they do. I don't think Mike Muscala is going to start and play big minutes. They can go small against Boston. It's not like Porzingis likes to bang downside or down inside. Gallinari could get a bump up. He's 3'8", a low tournament value play, but he's never going to play a lot of minutes. I just don't know what they're going to do. I think if we thought Kuzma is kind of interesting, honestly. If the game stays close, he's going to have to play 36 plus minutes. He played 35 last game, and he's going to take 20 plus shots. Same with Jordan Poole. My problem with Jordan Poole is we have a cheaper version of Jordan Poole, who is a flat 6K that we're going to talk about a little bit later, who's basically the same play, but maybe even a little bit better. We'll talk about that. Tyus Jones, I would love to play him, but he's only playing 27, 28 minutes. So it's a really tough spot. Denny Avdia, are they going to give him more minutes? I have no idea what the Wizards are going to do. I do have a little interest in Kyle Kuzma. And then on the Celtics side, yeah, it's tough. Drew Holiday grades out, projects as a fine play. I do prefer the guards in the Nets game, though, a little bit more. And, Tatum and Brown, mainly Tatum, do you want to spend up for him? I would rather try to find the salary for Luka or, Giannis or Jokic later on. So I'm torn on this team. I'm probably going to be under on the Celtics side. I'm sure I'll have some Drew. He's grading out as a very good play. I just don't think he's a guy on this team in this spot where they're so heavily favored that I want to lock in and get way overweight on. So I'll definitely be underweight. I think it's an okay spot for Kyle Kuzma, though, in tournaments.
Yeah. I think you bring up good points about the Kuzma thing. My issue that I keep running into is I feel on these slates right now, and I mentioned this to Bobby last night, and I talked about this a lot last year. I think some of these NBA slates, and I think we're at that point where the pricing isn't great, that you just can't miss. If you just absolutely whiff, you're in trouble. And some of these very high variance guys, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little scared. Maybe I'm putting the condom on because of it, but I just don't want to whiff too hard on some of those plays and get those floor games, which is what Kyle Kuzma can do, especially in this matchup. And I'm not trying to predict blowout or anything like that, but I do think this is one of those games that it could possibly blow out more than likely than other ones. DC, obviously Washington, a team we want to target. How do you want to handle this game based on what me and AP have talked about so far?
Yeah, on the 11-game slate, the first thing to point out, just strategy-wise, in NBA in general, it's really kind of the only DFS sport like this where there is a clear advantage to having open spots in your lineup as the slate progresses, right? Because we get news that people don't expect. It also gives you options to swap based on how your night's going, right? If you are on the nuts early on, you can just play the best plays, play the chalk if you want to. And if your early plays don't work out, you can, shift a little bit, throw in the late news. And it is advantageous to wait in general. Obviously, there are times when you're not going to do that, when great plays emerge. We saw it Saturday night with the Cavaliers, right? LeVert, Strus, and Mobley were just awesome plays with all the Cavaliers knew. So it doesn't always work out that way, but I just bring that up because you do want to shy away, I think, from, marginal plays in the first game of the night because you lock yourself out of news happening. We saw it, to go back to the Darren Sharp thing, right? You kind of get locked into a lineup and you can't make swaps that you want to make based on other news that happens as the night progresses. So that's the first thing. In terms of this game in general, I do think it's a little bit interesting as a game stack. AP mentioned Tyus Jones to 28 minutes in back-to-back games. Kind of interestingly, if you look a little closer, in that first game, Tyus Jones, he played 22 minutes in the first half when he was rolling, right? He had 25 fantasy points at halftime. He was absolutely going off. And then in the second half, the Pacers blew out the Wizards, so you didn't see Tyus out there as much. And in the second game, DeLon Wright came off the bench, and the bench kind of went off, so Tyus lost some minutes there. But if they're willing to play him the 22 minutes in the first half of that first game, the minutes upside is at least there if things are going his way. So I think Tyus Jones is interesting. And I just think the Wizards in general, especially if they're missing Gafford and they kind of have to go small, like this game has a 230 total. It's in Washington. If the Wizards play well, I could see Tyus, Poole, Kuzma all playing upper 30s in minutes, taking 60 combined shots at least. And then on the other side, the production and minutes are going to be there for Boston, right? I mean, Tatum's played 41 and 39 minutes in the first 2 games. Kind of crazy to see. So I do think this game has potential. I don't see anything that you have to play. I'll definitely like it a little bit more from the Wizards side if Gafford misses, in which case, that Tyus Poole Kuzma combination I think is correlated well and has some upside. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. But we'll see with the Gafford news. I really don't see anything here that you absolutely have to play. And I think probably the best strategy is to mostly avoid this game and keep your options open for later.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you. I wouldn't tell someone like, listen, if you're MMEing, I wouldn't be like, take Porzingis out of the floor or something like that. But I would just see how they hit and kind of go from there. For my single entry 3-max stuff, I'm not super excited about too many plays in this game. Like I said, mainly Jaylen Brown is someone to look at. Let's go to the next game and talk about the Chicago Bulls and the Indiana Pacers. And similar spot to what we just talked about. Now, the difference is the Chicago Bulls have been chalky, and for good reason. The prices feel too cheap. You're kind of baited in the prices, and we got baited into Zach LaVine, and then he's 1% owned, and then goes off for a massive game. So this is one of those spots where I don't know what to do exactly with the Bulls, because I think that they can all have good games at their prices, all have ceiling performances, but they're playing the Indiana Pacers, and it's a really, really good spot. But I don't want to play these guys. I hate playing Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic. And I don't know if I want to lock into him in this spot. And Kobe White at 5.1K. Kobe White, he looked great to start the year, and then all of a sudden, has an absolute dud at 20 to 25% owned. And it's one of those parts where it's like a mental gymnastics game.
Did you see Discord? Last Kobe White game, go look at his box score. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
there's one dude in there crying, just absolutely crying, just in shambles, going on and on and on about Kobe White. That's hilarious.
It's tough at the start of the year because I think we all do mental gymnastics of should we play this guy? Look at the box score, right? I think everyone battles with that for sure. Is this actually for real what this player is doing? Did they evolve in the offseason, right? Is their role different with this coach? I definitely am not excited to play Bulls. I understand the plays on LaVine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. And then on the Pacers side of the ball, I want to play the Pacers a lot of the time, but at their prices of 9.4 and 6.7 for Turner and Halliburton, I'm not as excited. And I also think Benedict Mathurin, and I'm not trying to overreact or anything, but I think him in the lineup over Buddy Hield does kind of pull some of the usage away from Halliburton. Now, I don't know how much. I want to wait and get a longer sample size before I figure that out. But that's just something I was thinking of where I don't think that the price tags right now on these guys I'm super excited about unless it's just, hey, Halliburton has a ceiling game, which he certainly can do. There's tons of studs that can do that in the NBA. But AP, break this game down because it's clearly a game that you want to play, you'd think. But with it being such a big slate and all the injury news, maybe we're not as excited about it.
Yeah, if you've been following some of my bets, I'm basically hammering the over on a ton of these Pacers games. I can't do it against the Bulls, though. The Bulls are just tough, man. They don't play with a lot of pace. They're bad. They definitely rely on Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan to get it done. The Pacers, though, they are literally sprinting up and down the court. I mean, they are playing at such a fast pace. It makes it really nice for fantasy purposes and for the Bulls, which, again, is a tilting team. So this is where I implemented a rule. I'm not a huge rule guy. I think this rule makes a ton of sense for tonight. It's no more than one of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and I did add Vucevic in there. Vucevic's role it'll be tested tonight. We'll see if the big guy can get going in a great spot against the Pacers. Bigs against Pacers have been a thing for a while now. But this truly is a spot for it's DeRozan or LaVine is going to go off. Just LaVine coming off, a 50-piece, put up 50 raw, 51 points, 48% usage, 39% usage against OKC. And then DeRozan it was against Toronto. Naturally, a little revenge narrative there. He went out for 52 DraftKings points. One of those two guys is going to smash tonight. So I did overproject them, but I added a rule in that says one or the other, not them together, just because you rarely ever see them like smash together, especially at that price tag. And I'm talking trying to achieve that optimal result. So the Pacer side is a lot tougher though. Like I want to play Halliburton, 9.4K. I think if I did play a Pacers guy, it would be him. Outside of that, the rotation is really tough. They're running a wide rotation here. I think it's so that they can play with a ton of pace, so they can sprint up and down. I mean, just go and look at like Jalen Smith. Like this guy not playing heavy minutes. When he's in there, he's crushing, absolutely crushing. It's crazy, but he's only going to play 18 minutes. So like I can't play a guy like that. Obi Toppin, same thing. And Obi Toppin's 4.7K. Miles Turner, you could definitely play, more of a tournament play. But really, it's DeRozan or Levine, and then maybe Halliburton. But I don't think you need to force him in. And then I think Kobe White is fine too. But the guard position is absolutely loaded today, in my opinion. I think there are stronger plays than him, but he definitely is in play here.
All right, cool. DC, let's get your thoughts on this game. Clearly one that, like, I kind of said, hey, if the Wizards are on the slate, the Pacers are on the slate, I want to know who they're playing. You going to play any Bulls here in this spot?
Yeah, not a ton to add outside of what AP said. I think max one of Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic makes a lot of sense to me. I think I would rank them in that order, right? We saw the ceiling game from Levine. Doesn't mean he's going to do it again, but you've seen it once. You at least know he's capable of it. Of course he is with this group of players. Kobe White, I mean, I wasn't really surprised to see him kind of come back to earth. I kind of think he is who he is. It's, we've talked about it on the show. Don't get too caught up in the early box scores. Like, it's important to adjust, but when there's players who we've got a decent history on, I think you need to be careful assuming that they're a completely different player, especially when they're playing with the same group of players that they were in years past. So, unless we get unexpected news in this game, I'll probably look elsewhere for the most part. I just kind of out on Indiana, and I think just one of the Chicago guys, if any, is probably enough for me.
All right, let's shift on over to the next game. Next one up is the Charlotte Hornets and the Brooklyn Nets, and definitely a game that we are going to have some interest in, right? Cam Johnson is out. You're missing Nicholas Claxton too, and they ran a pretty tight rotation the other night, and everyone was upset about Day'Ron Sharpe. Obviously, we'll break down how that's going to kind of go here. I think Day'Ron Sharpe could play more for sure, but I also think you could see a similar disappointing amount of minutes because they could go PJ Washington in small ball lineups, right? That is certainly possible. I also think the Brooklyn Nets are fine. I don't think they're as good as some other spots that we've had in the past. Like the other day when the Cleveland Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell was the guy and absolutely smashed. I was just looking at some contests in the $250 tournament. Donovan Mitchell wasn't even on the winner, and he put up 73 DK. Luka ended up being on the winner. Now, he was a really good play, and some other teams at the top had him. But my point is, AP, I don't think we need to play every single Nets option, right? I don't think this is a 3 to 4 Nets kind of night. I think it's a night to consider the Nets. There are some good plays on the board based on their prices. I think Cam Thomas is really good. Ben Simmons, you got him as a core play, so you'll discuss him more. Don't mind Dinwiddie. A lot of options to discuss here, AP, but do you think it's a night to just jam in these options?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think it's more so look at the collective ownership of this group. The Nets ran basically a 7-man rotation. Sure, Dennis Smith played 8 minutes. Day'Ron Sharpe played the 3.4 minutes. Outside of that, it was a 7-man rotation with everyone playing basically 33-plus minutes. I believe it was Spencer Dinwiddie who played 39 or just about 40. And they were in that game the whole time. And they were also in the Cavs game. They probably should have won that game. I think they need to get a win tonight against the Hornets, a game that's going to have a really nice pace. Anytime LaMelo Ball is playing, I mean, the pace in those games are just so much greater because he is constantly pushing in transition and can facilitate the offense with the best of them. So I like this game a lot. I want to be overweight collectively But I agree with you. Do you just jam in like 4 or 5 guys from the net? No, you don't do that. Am I okay playing? Like, what's the question everyone always asks? How many is too many?
Exactly.
And yeah, it's a great question tonight, and it's not the easiest answer. Like, I am rotating in like a Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, and then maybe a Royce O'Neal or Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, so 3 on the surface. Now, I haven't ran my builds yet, but 3 kind of sounds good. It's a big slate. There's a lot of options for the Nets to have like 4 or 5 optimal players. Very, very difficult to do. Most likely need overtime, the game to play really fast, and for them to run an extremely tight rotation again. So keep in mind, I think probably 3 seems like on the surface seems like a decent number. 2 or 3 is probably where I'll be at. But Cam Thomas, I mean, this dude is an absolute bucket. The guy is an offensive machine, and he's the cheaper Jordan Poole. When you think about Jordan Poole, like, what's Cam Thomas's kind of liability out there? What everyone says is his defense, but his offense more than makes up for it, and they can kind of hide him a little bit, in my opinion. So, like, Cam Thomas, in my opinion, a cheaper Jordan Poole. Spencer Dinwiddie, you gotta like the minutes that we saw last game. We've yet to see Mikal Bridges go off. I think he's going to be like the tournament play. Like, this dude was hitting 40 plus consistently, down the stretch last season. So, and then it's Ben Simmons. Like, we love centers against the Hornets. One, because of pace, because of rebounding opportunities. Add in Ben Simmons, not like a offensive guy that you want. You're not playing him for his raw points. It's for his peripheral stats, the rebounds and assists in a pace-up spot that has historically been good for players who are playing the 5, which that's going to be Ben Simmons tonight, unless the lineup comes out differently, unless Day'Ron Sharpe somehow starts, then you throw everything I said out the window. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. It sets up really well for a game for Ben Simmons to get steals, blocks, assists, rebounds, and maybe get a few putbacks too. So I really like Ben Simmons tonight. I think 6.4K is a fine price tag for him. And then on the other side, it is a little bit tougher. I will say, like, I thought they had a somewhat hard cap on LaMelo's minutes. He played 33 against Detroit. I wouldn't be surprised if he played 35 tonight. I think he's an okay run back. I'm not as excited about the Hornets side, though.
Yeah, I'm definitely not as excited about the Hornets run backs. You could make a case for him, Mark Williams, who's someone we've been interested in early on. And you could make a case for him to be able to dominate in this matchup, but you could make that small ball lineup case that could hurt his minutes. DC, I'll go over to you to talk about the Nets because I think this is one of the bigger talking points on the slate. I'm with AP. Like, I think 3 is the max I want to be at, but I also don't feel like I need 3. I think 1 could work. I think 2 could work. I don't think that they're just like jammed in plays, but they're really good plays. The way I would rank them, Cam Thomas and Ben Simmons, they seem like options 1 and 2. I kind of agree on. I think we'd all agree on that's probably the 2 best options that people want to get to, mainly because of Cam Thomas's ceiling, Cam Thomas's ceiling, and then Ben Simmons' floor with the peripherals that he can get, and also the opportunity to like kind of be the small ball center helps him a lot to help that floor. And then Dinwiddie just feels like a condom player, right? Just kind of, he feels fine. He's not like the worst play in the world. And then the next tier of guys feels like Royce O'Neal or Dorian Finney-Smith for some cheap values. And then the off-the-board guy, like AP said, is Mikal Bridges, who is expensive, who's not going to gain as much ownership as these guys, but could have a massive game.
Yeah, I mean, Bridges is a guy I'd probably avoid. I get it as a GPP play, but at 7,800, I mean, is he really that much better, higher projected than Cam Thomas and Ben Simmons? I personally don't think so. And then, the other Nets that you like, Finney-Smith and Royce O'Neal, they're really cheap, 4,300, 4,100. We know we need value tonight. So, yeah, I think you can play – for sure I think you can play 4 Brooklyn Nets if you want to, as long as, 2 of them are the cheap guys. And, again, like AP said, this is all assuming that they go – with Sharpe on the bench to start the game, which I think they will, but we've certainly seen stranger things than them going back to Sharpe. But assuming Sharpe does indeed sit and, maybe doesn't play many minutes like he did in the last game, Charlotte, like, we know they like to play fast. They could also potentially go really small here, right? They typically run the, Mark Williams and then Nick Richards backing him up. But even in their last game, they kind of sat both those guys down first half and second half. They started to play small ball with some Brandon Miller in there. And then you can, slide PJ Washington to the 5 if you want to. So the Hornets side is interesting too. LaMelo played 31 that first game, 33 game 2. I just kind of assume he's good to go, right? I mean, I don't think he's going to play 40, but yeah, like AP said, 35 plus minutes seems well within the realm of possibility. I think you have possibility that this game just goes absolutely off. Both teams play small. It's up and down the court. There's turnovers, blocks and steals everywhere. And, no potentially very few centers on the court, which is obviously great for the pace. So, yeah, I'm in on this game. I think you can absolutely game stack this one if you want to. You play 3 or 4 nets with maybe, LaMelo, Hayward, even Brandon Miller. I mean, he played 34 minutes off the bench. And if we think this game
he looked
goes
good
home,
too, right, DC?
Yeah.
He looked. I mean, how sharp does this team look now? Passing on Scoot and picking up Brandon Miller, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about Scoot. I tried to warn people about him on Friday, but I don't think he's quite ready. But yeah, I mean, this game has potential to go small on both sides, play tight rotations on both sides, and if you're not playing Bridges outside of LaMelo, it's all pretty stackable. So yeah, I'll probably load up on this game on at least a couple of my lineups tonight, and maybe you get the overtime too. We've seen that happen many times on the winner for NBA slates. So I'm in on this game for sure.
All right, we're 30 minutes in. We've only gone to 3 games, so we got to keep this thing moving along. But I promise there's going to be some games that we are going to breeze over. This next one is not, though. It's Portland and Toronto, and Portland is more shorthanded. Also, Toronto dealing with some injuries. We got Precious Achiuwa. He's doubtful. OG Anunoby, questionable. Definitely things that we're going to have to kind of, figure out what to do with. It's 30 minutes after the lock time, so who knows if we will have the news. We know how the NBA can be. But Portland is interesting in this spot, right? Because they are missing Anthony Simons. And because of that, you got Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench at 5.6K. He's definitely going to grade out as a good value. Shadon Sharp at 6.3K. He'll grade out pretty well. I know Scoot Henderson is 5K on FanDuel, 6K on DraftKings, and the dude cannot keep his hands to himself. So that's a whole disaster scenario. But in GBPs, we know the upside could be there if he doesn't get in foul trouble and starts hitting his shots. Jeremy Grant, I saw he was 1% owned yesterday, and he does have the ability to pop. So I think there are tournament plays. Even DeAndre Ayton is oddly enough in play, but we know how frustrating he can be. And I think this Toronto length could be a problem for Portland a bit. And Scotty Barnes, this is one of those guys that, you see 7.7K on Scotty Barnes right now. And this always happens every single time in October and November. We see prices and we go, man, that's starting to get up there. It might just be too cheap. Scotty Barnes might just be in the 8Ks for the rest of the year. I mean, it's certainly possible the way that he is playing with the minutes he's getting, 37, 39, 37. It just seems like a spot that Scotty Barnes, with the peripherals he gets, it still could be just too cheap. I know our guy JSU has had him as a core play over the past couple of days, and it's gone really good for the members over there. I know our guy Phil is in the chat and won 30K off him, so congrats to Phil for getting some Scotty Barnes in your life. But overall, this is a game that I think we have to have some interest in AP. But the question is, are these plays going to be better than some of the Nets plays we talked about and some of the values that we might get later on?
Yeah, I'm still – so yesterday, NFL Sunday, obviously, and watching the Chiefs game, which was a tough watch. It definitely was. But I was all right around lock, and I was like 99% sure that Joel Embiid would sit. I'm like, they do not need Joel Embiid on a back-to-back against Portland at home. And right as lock hit, they announced Joel Embiid, was ruled in. I was all in on Giannis, all in on Trae Young, and I was building out these Paul Reed scripts where I had Paul Reed projected for 34 DraftKings points, and I had to redo the whole entire script. And then Embiid ends up just nuking for 80 some points. The point of that story is someone is going to go off. This Portland team is terrible defensively, just terrible top to bottom right now. I like bigs against them. I like power forwards against them. Dennis Schroeder has been smashing. You could play Scotty Barnes again. I think it's an interesting spot for Jakob Poeltl. 24 minutes. We know this is a guy that can produce. Center is kind of tough on this slate. At 5'6", I have a little interest. The other thing too, and no one's going to play him. And just looking at the box, the matchups haven't been as easy against Minnesota, Chicago, and Philly. But Pascal Siakam, we have not seen that same role from him yet. It could very easily come in a matchup like this one. It's really easy. Let him handle the rock a little bit more over Scotty Barnes. There's a lot of different outcomes I could see happening here. And so my point is I want exposure to this game, but I want to kind of spread it around between Schroeder, Scotty Barnes, Siakam, and Pirtle in MME tonight. So on the Blazers side, it's, Brogdon, I think he's the play. Shaedon Sharp's fine. Jeremy Grant's been terrible. And same with DeAndre Ayton. I will say no Bob Williams tonight. So will Ayton get like max minutes here? I don't know. I'm curious to see what you guys think about that.
All right, DC, what's your thoughts on that? And also just letting you guys know, Gafford is out. So that obviously, we need to know what the starting lineups are going to be, right? I'm not going to speculate if it's Mike Muscala season. I'll let the Up the Lock show take care of that and take care of you guys. But DC, what's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, we'll leave the Mike Muscala decision for the people after us. That's a good move right there, Mangone. This game, yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, the Portland side obviously missing Simons, and then Robert Williams being out, pretty big deal. He is going to be a guy that kind of splits minutes with DeAndre Ayton, right? He's a good player, and they play the same position. You take him out of the equation, I don't think DeAndre Ayton is guaranteed to play 35 minutes, but the likelihood goes way, way up that he would. So, yeah, DeAndre Ayton, 6,600. He's not a player I love to play, but, I mean, you could argue this Portland team kind of needs his offense a little bit right now, and it's a great spot for him with Williams out. So I do think he's certainly in play at 6,600. I think he's my favorite Blazer outside of Malcolm Brogdon, who I do think is kind of clearly the guard that you want. Him and Sharp. I got to see it from Scoot. I wouldn't be surprised to see Scoot Henderson move to the bench soon. Maybe that won't happen with Simons out, but Scoot just doesn't look ready to me. Kind of thought he would struggle, and he certainly has. So, yeah, Brogdon, Ayton, Sharp, who I'm looking at from Portland. And then the Toronto side, looking at some of the advanced metrics, the tracking stuff, it sure looks like Siakam's role has changed in a significant way for the worse for Siakam. It looks like it's going to be Scotty Barnes and Dennis Schroeder, who are the primary playmakers on this team, who have the ball in their hands the majority of the time. Schroeder, back-to-back double-digit assist games. It doesn't look like a fluke to me. I think he's still a good play at 5,900 in a good matchup. And, yeah, Scotty Barnes, I mean, there's something to be said for playing 37 to 40 minutes every single night, right? He's not a guy that really gets in foul trouble either. He's just going to be so consistent. So even at 7,700, I do think he's a pretty reasonable play. I don't think I'd play too many Toronto Raptors, including Jakob Poeltl makes me a little bit nervous with the minutes. Could see Toronto potentially going smaller. Obviously, they can play Siakam at the 5 some. So, yeah, mostly Schroeder, Barnes for me on Toronto, and then Ayton, Brogdon for Portland.
Yep, I think I agree with you on that. And there are some players like Pascal Siakam, like you mentioned, that price is going to get cheap. And I'm not taking the bait yet, right? Let that thing.
It's going to be a lot cheaper for me to take the bait, assuming if Schroeder and Barnes are in. If one of those guys misses, I do think Siakam will kind of return to a role that we've seen in the past.
Agreed.
One other guy too, just because this game could get out of control, is our guy Chris Boucher. So he's a guy that can absolutely smash, and I love it. He's a reserve guy that could crush in this matchup. So yeah, got to mention that.
No, definitely, certainly could. Let's go to the next game though. And the chat wants to already talk about this game. They're saying Ant-Man tonight with Trae Young defense. That is something I get excited about. 9.2K. I think with a lot of these guys that are in the 9K range, like the Siakams, right? Zion Williamson, who's 8'9". Ant is someone I'm interested in maybe buying on, especially with the guard and forward eligibility in tournaments. If you're looking for a low-owned guy that could crush in this matchup, I'm not scared of the Clint Capella rim protection. Also, we should talk about the Atlanta Hawks. And I don't hate Trae Young. I mean, at 9K, the argument is, hey, it's just too cheap for Trae Young at 9K. And then a couple other plays that could be values. Okongwu, he was a value yesterday, and I don't think he's the worst value here in this spot. They're kind of splitting up those minutes between Capella and Okongwu. And then Jalen Johnson as a starter at 5K. I don't hate it here, but I think the rebounding is helping him a ton. And I think this matchup is not the easiest rebounding matchup. So I'm not as excited about Jalen Johnson, even though he might pop a little bit. AP, what about you? What do you want to do with this game?
I mean, one, there's no way the Hawks put Trae Young on Anthony Edwards.
Yeah,
so. I mean, that's never happening.
No, yes.
I know that. Yeah. I'm like, if they do that, like I'm bumping my projection way up on Anthony Edwards.
The biggest key is the rim protection on the Hawks is not as great as you think, right? I think people just assume with Clint Capella it's great rim protection, but it's not. And Ant obviously will just be able to have his way. Sure, Hunter will probably be on him at times, but if he gets switches off, he'll be able to get through the hole pretty easily, right, AP?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is a spot. Like my one problem though with a lot of these teams is there's a lot of usage to go around. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards. I mean, Gobert is trying to get his. I mean, Naz Reid is coming and playing a bigger role, which we like to see. I'm curious to see if they start Nickeil Alexander-Walker. It seems like a spot where they could do that because Jaden McDaniels questionable, right? So I think Anthony Edwards in tournaments, the guy always has a ton of upside. I mean, he almost got there against Toronto and he had OG Anunoby on him, who's an incredible defender. So Anthony Edwards in multi-entry formats is always someone that you need in your player pool. And I wouldn't overlook Towns too. This is going to be a spot where I think he's able to shoot a bunch of threes over the likes of Jalen Johnson and Jalen Johnson's nice. I mean, he's really good. It's just it seems like the Hawks lack a little bit of size to where Cat could have that space that he needs out on the perimeter. Really curious to see what DC thinks about the spot for Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns. And then on the Hawks side, Jalen Johnson, got to like his role. He got the start last game. I still don't like the Hawks rotation. They're playing a lot of guys. But again, Jalen Johnson he looks nice, man. He's 5K. I think that price is going to continue to rise.
Yeah, I mean, DC always likes him some Cat, so we'll see if he likes him here in this spot. What's your thoughts here on Cat in this game, DC?
Yeah, I think he's fine at 8,400. Certainly not a priority play, but has, what's he averaging? 37.5 fantasy points, despite really, really poor shooting, which is very uncharacteristic for Cat. That's obviously the best part of his game. Just 3 for 14 from 3 and 35% overall from the field for normally a extremely efficient scorer. So, if you give him average shooting, he's probably up near 50 fantasy points per game so far. So, yeah, I think Cat at 8,400 is in play. Interestingly, the Wolves defense has been really, really good through 2 games, gave up just 97 points to Toronto and then just 90 to the Miami Heat. Now, Miami was really shorthanded, so maybe you kind of take that with a little bit of grain of salt, but I do think this team defense is going to come together. They got pretty much the same crew they had last year, so that continuity, I think, will play into the defense. I've got, obviously, Rudy Gobert, for all his flaws, is still an excellent anchor, as the center of any defense. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything in this game that I absolutely have to play. I think the projections are really high on, is it Daniel Hunter or DeAndre Hunter, rather?
DeAndre, yeah.
Yeah, DeAndre Hunter, which I get at 4,900. He does look like a value to me. Atlanta playing a pretty tight rotation, so I get it from that perspective. But, yeah, like one of Edwards or Towns, I think is kind of where I'd start with the Wolves. And then, yeah, DeAndre Hunter looks like the best play from the Hawks. Trae Young is fine as well.
All right, next game up. Again, we'll have some games that'll be quick that we're kind of going through for sure here. And if you guys could please hit that like button, it's appreciated. We're 103, 418 watching. That's like 25% of you. What we could do is we could just not talk, and I could just literally go to the Snyder Soldiers and leave this here, and we can just sit here until the likes get up to a certain number, and Snyder can stare you down, but I won't let that happen. That's a little too egregious to do to you guys. So,
and we got 6 games left. I didn't realize that.
I know, but hey, listen, get those likes in, and Snyder won't stare you down the rest of the show. Okay, how's that sound? Okay, we could just leave them there while we talk, and you don't even stare at our ugly mugs. You guys stare at Snyder, just staring you in the eyes. So, but this will be quick, AP. There's not the games that are coming up. There's some okay ones, but this is definitely one that we are going to have some interest in. Dallas and Memphis. I'll break it down quick. Memphis, I think, has a lot of different value plays. I think some of these guys, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, their prices have gone up a little too high. I think they can still get there, but it's just not as good of values. The real debate is, do you want to play like Zaire Williams, who I think is a pretty interesting player? I think Roddy, Conchar could be intriguing, but Zaire Williams is probably my favorite option on Memphis as a value. Dallas, if Kyrie sits, this would open up. I think Josh Green would open up as a pretty good play. Tim Hardaway Jr. could be intriguing. And Luka at 12K, obviously a great play. You already like him a lot, AP, so break down how to handle this game.
Yeah, like that 12K price tag is going to scare people off. Or the other thing, too, is we know optimizers and projections kind of control and dictate ownership. And I don't think people are going to bump Luka up high enough to really hit that optimizer. And I'm way, way, way higher from a projection standpoint than where even we are at. And I think that we are over relative to the field. So, and that is even if Kyrie plays. If Kyrie doesn't play, I mean, like, look at who they have. They don't have anywhere. Like, Luka has to. Everything is going to run through him. His usage is going to be absolutely insane. I mean, his price tag should be like 13K, to be honest. Like, we're approaching that. What was it, Russ? Back in the day, like 13, he had to be like the highest priced fantasy player back in the day, I think. So I think Luka going to be a phenomenal play. And then the other thing about the Mavs, they're not the best defensive team too. And even if like Kyrie's out, that's just going to be more Tim Hardaway Jr. You know, Josh Green is pretty nice, but it's not like they're the best defensive team. While like the price tags are up on the Grizzlies, it makes them kind of tough. But I think you can consider guys like Tillman, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, in tournaments. I think that you could look at like David Roddy, a value, they'll come off the bench. The Grizzly side is definitely tougher. I think it's find a way to get you Luka in your builds. Maybe use like Luka plus some of those mid-range net guys. Then you're going to need some value. If you do that, I think it's going to give you a nice floor-ceiling combination. But absolutely love Luka tonight, even if Kyrie plays.
All right, DC, break this one down. Any interest in the Memphis value and the Kyrie news?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it the first game of the season. Like, Dallas, outside of Luka and Kyrie, they just have nothing on offense. It's kind of alarming how shorthanded they are. So, yeah, even if Kyrie plays, I think Luka is a good play. You know, Kyrie sits. I mean, Luka is, in my opinion at least, by far the best play of the night. I think you start your lineups with Luka in, assuming we don't have Kyrie news at lock. And if you need to adjust based on news, if Kyrie sits and you want to move off Luka to get more balance or something, that's fine. But I have no problem being quote-unquote stuck with Luka tonight, even if Kyrie plays. So, yeah, he's going to be in a majority of my lineups for sure. Luka will. Hoping Kyrie sits, obviously, but fine with him even if he doesn't. If he does sit, though, I think Tim Hardaway is going to play. I mean, he's going to play 30 minutes anyway, but they just have almost no scoring outside of Luka, and you can't do everything. So I think at that point, Tim Hardaway becomes a secondary scorer. He's got 10 3-point attempts, or 10 and 7 through 2 games. I mean, you could be easily looking at double-digit 3-point attempts for Tim Hardaway if Kyrie sits. He would be the second guy I would go to. And then, if you want to throw in the matchup, Memphis has actually been the worst team at defending pick-and-roll ball handlers this year so far. Obviously, a small sample size there. Luka leads the NBA in pick-and-roll scoring. Again, just a further boost if Kyrie is out. Memphis, I'm not really in on Memphis, but it is a good matchup. Dallas really has no defense. I just don't see anything on Memphis that I'm dying to play. Desmond Bane would probably be my preferred option if I'm trying to, mini stack this game or something like that.
All right, next game up, Pistons, Thunder. I can make this quick. There's not a lot that sticks out. I think Isaiah Stewart, you could make a case as one of those guys that's popping a bit at 5'2", and I think he's fine, but not my favorite. He's one of those chalk options I'm curious to get your guys' takes on. And then I'd say SGA at 10.6 is pretty pricey, and then Jalen Duren at 7.1 feels pricey, but I wouldn't be shocked if Jalen Duren lived in this high 6, like 7K range throughout the rest of this year. I mean, he's clearly going to be a big part of this team's future. AP, what's your thoughts on these price tags on the Pistons and the Thunder?
Yeah, Pistons, a team right now, they're really clamping down defensively, not playing at, that fast of a pace. their structure's good. We're moving on from the Dwayne Casey era of capping everyone's minutes at 25 to 27 and making sure that everyone gets a touch and sees the court. We're moving on from that era. The Monty Williams show is in town now. And what we've seen is Jalen Duren. I mean, he's been an absolute stud, playing 33, 34 minutes. And it seems like a decent spot. It's one of those things. It's, is this the correct price tag? And have projections on him, have they caught up enough? And I'm not entirely sure there. Because I think centers against OKC, definitely a thing. Duren, very, very good defensive player. So I really struggle to play like a Chet Holmgren who got owned by Jokic yesterday. I actually was watching that game because I thought it was a spot where, 2 p.m. on a Sunday, NFL Sunday, I thought it was a spot where OKC would really get up for that game, playing the champs, and I thought they'd still win. They did not. They got destroyed, absolutely destroyed. We'll see how they respond. They should absolutely wipe the floor with the Pistons, but Pistons a good defensive team. Can Cade Cunningham take them to that next level? We'll see. Killian Hayes, a good defender. That's about it. I'm under on this game. I could see it. I hate betting OKC unders, but I could see this game falling under the total. It's already come down a little bit. Shea's price is too high for me. Jalen Williams, the one guy I could consider at 5'8" in the power forward spot, and then Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, and then Alec Burks off the bench a little bit. He's had a nice roll, 4-5. Feels a little trappy, but I could see him getting it done. He's more raw scoring dependent, but the price tag and the positional eligibility for him makes him somewhat intriguing.
All right, couple injury pieces just to mention. LaMelo Ball will still have similar minutes. He played 31 and 33. Zach LaVine available, and we have the Nets starting lineup. Dinwiddie, Thomas, Bridges, Finney Smith, and Ben Simmons, your starting center. So that is the lineup. DC, we don't have to break that down. Again, Up the Lock Show can break the rest down for you. We talked about that already. Let's go on to this game, though. OKC Pistons. Who do you like here, DC?
Yeah, I'm back in on the Pistons. I was in on Cade Cunningham, unfortunately, on Friday night when he had his one bad game so far. I was in foul trouble all game. Of course, it came in the best spot that he's had against Charlotte. But other than that, I mean, he's crushed twice in a row. 46 fantasy points last time out against Chicago, 52 against Miami in the opener. And look at the minutes. Obviously, foul trouble in that middle game against Charlotte, but 40 minutes last time out against Chicago, didn't go to overtime or anything. And then 36 in a game he was in a little bit of foul trouble in against Miami. AP talked about the coaching change. Sure looks like they're going to ride Cade Cunningham as far as he can take him right now. I think he's kind of a true number one option on this offense. Not every team even has one of those. He's the man right now for Detroit. I know he's expensive at 8,800. He was super low owned, though. On Friday, I didn't check on Saturday. I assume he was low owned again after dudding on Friday, and I bet he'll be low owned tonight too. I'm in on Cade Cunningham. I think he's going to be a 50-plus fantasy point scorer regularly. Not saying that's going to, it's not going to be every night, but I do think he's going to be a beast in this current role. And I like pairing him, man, with Jalen Duren. I'm sticking with him. He's looked absolutely fantastic, crushing on the boards. Oklahoma City, not a great rebounding team in general. Duren getting the minutes. And also, I think a good chance for putback dunks, which is a pretty big part of Duren's game. We know Chet Holmgren underneath likes to go for those blocks, right, which can open up opportunities for Duren to clean it up underneath. So I was on it Friday. I'm going back to it with that Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren combination. I think they're the two key pieces on this team, and I think they're going to have a lot of big games together. I'm hoping tonight's one of them.
I've gained like 20 or 30 likes since I forced Snyder on people, but it seems like people want Snyder. So this is what we're going to do. We're not giving you Snyder anymore unless you hit the like. So how's that sound?
There we go.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. The people in chat like Snyder and they wanted him staring him down. So just trying to get those likes up, guys. We also gained 50 people since I said it. So hit that like. We appreciate it. Let's go on to the next game. Next game up is, and I lost my spot because I was hanging out with Snyder here. Oh, here it is. Golden State Warriors and Pelicans. It'll be quick for me. Pelicans are just, I think they're too overpriced right now. Maybe you can make a case for McCollum or Ingram, but there's just better plays. And then Warriors, they're dealing with injuries. If Klay Thompson and Kuminga sits, well, that could open some things up, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And I also don't think they're just priorities to jam on your team if these guys are out. AP, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I saw Brandon Ingram kind of popping in projections. Looks like he could get a little ownership. I'm not buying it. I'm with you. There's so many mouths to feed with this team healthy. With Zion, I mean, they all take from each other. And so it's one of those things where, how do I handle this? I actually just slightly under-project all of them. So I'm not like Xing them out or fading them. I'm just under-projecting them. And if one of them lands, my builds, it means that, hey, they're probably somewhat of a decent play. And then the Warriors, too, it is tough. You get Chris Paul coming off the bench now. He's definitely not in play. Klay Thompson's looked really bad. Wiggins has looked really bad. There's just too much to go around. I find myself very much underweight entirely on this game. I do like Zion. I'm with you. I saw your comment there in chat. I want to have a little bit of him because I know the upside that is there, but you're right. The minutes are a huge risk. So just in MME formats only, I would get on Zion.
Yeah, let the price keep dropping. It's going to drop for sure. DC, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this is a game I don't want to play much of. That could potentially change if Thompson and Kuminga sit. They're both questionable right now, so we'll see on them. If Chris Paul gets back in the starting lineup with Thompson out or something like that, then yeah, maybe. But I do think with Draymond back in, the huge assist games, huge usage games we saw from CP3 are going to change when Draymond is in there. He's obviously going to have a big role facilitating the offense as well. So, yeah, I'm hoping to be out in this game. I'll probably get a little bit if Thompson, especially if he ends up sitting. And then I'm with you guys on the Pelicans. These prices just have to come down. You got McCollum, Ingram, Zion. They're all too expensive right now. So there'll be time to play these guys for sure. I don't think it's tonight.
All right, cool. Let's move to the next one. We got Miami and we got Bam Adebayo, who is questionable in this game. And I want to know what the starting lineup is going to be. I think Kevin Love became a better play with Bam possibly sitting. But I will call this out. You could easily see Kevin Love's minutes monitored. Could see Thomas Bryant be the starter and then not close and they go smaller. There's a lot of weird things you could see with this game. So I'm not super excited about tackling that Miami situation unless it just looks like a really good play based on the lineup. Tyler Hero at 7-4 feels expensive, but the dude has been crushing. 20 or more shots in each game. The minutes have been good. He's a starter now. It just seems like not a bad spot. And he's returning to Milwaukee. And Milwaukee is a team that it's a little narrative, right? He grew up in that area. I think this is a spot where Tyler Hero is mainly the one guy I'm looking at here, AP. I know you and I talked about playing him in tournaments right now, and I think the price is going up, but I still think we can get away with it right now. What's your thoughts?
Well, donkey 7-4 price tag. My one I think you can play him. My problem is, am I playing him over Dinwiddie or Cam Thomas? No. Am I playing him over Dennis Schroeder, Malcolm Brogdon? I mean, probably not. Am I trying to get up to Luka? Yeah. And in doing so, it's playing these mid 7K guys that are scoring dependent is kind of a risky proposition if you're trying to go the Luka route. And I'm trying to get very overweight on him. So I'll end up under, but if I were playing someone from this game, I could get away with him. Same with like Jimmy Butler. But again, I think the Bucks bounce back here. I think we see a defensive game. The total is kind of indicative of that. And I'm not even that interested in Giannis either. Giannis could have a bounce back. I prefer Luka. I think Luka's path is much easier. Bam, Adebayo, and Spoelstra, they've always played Giannis really well. And they're going to have a good game plan for him. Bam usually plays him straight up. I'm under entirely on this game.
Yeah, I also like Jokic's path a little better too than Giannis, and I know he's more expensive. But DC, is this a game that you're just kind of fading or playing?
Fading for the most part. The exception would be if Adebayo does miss. I think Kevin Love, assuming he plays himself, he's also questionable to play. I just don't think I don't think you can go small against Milwaukee, right? You've got Giannis and Brook Lopez in the starting lineup, two enormous dudes. You've got Bobby Portis coming off the bench. I think Miami would be almost forced to play big, which you would think would mean a lot of minutes for Kevin Love. He plays both the 4 and the 5 for this team. He's been starting, so. And you can shoot threes galore on Milwaukee. So I think Kevin Love would be an interesting play at 4,400 if Bam sits. I actually think he's an okay play even if Bam's in there, but definitely prefer him if Bam sits. But yeah, overall, I'm not super interested here, and I'm with AP. I think Milwaukee has a big game tonight and maybe runs away with this one, honestly.
All right, see, we're going quick. We're at the hour mark, but we got 2 games left. And again, I think we'll be pretty quick with this next one. For me, it's really Jokic or bust. The only other argument I'd make is, and the Jazz are just super crowded. Like, sure, could Jordan Clarkson pop off for a big game, but I think John Collins' minutes seem pretty good with this team, and he's gotten good peripherals. It doesn't seem like a bad price tag for him right now at 5.6K, but I don't know, AP. It's like Jokic or bust, and if I play Luka, it's harder to play Jokic right now at this point, right? So that's kind of one big decision point we're going to have on this slate.
Yeah, so the Nuggets on a back end of a back-to-back, they did play during the day yesterday, so a little bit more time. Man, they look good. They're all healthy. I feel like they wiped the floor with the Jazz. They look so dialed in. I mean, it was incredible. Jokic came and just absolutely owned Chet Holmgren and company yesterday, and they're going to own Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, and these guys. I mean, MPJ was a bucket yesterday. It was like he couldn't miss. It could easily be Aaron Gordon tonight. But my problem is MPJ 6'3", Gordon 6'4". These guys aren't cheap. Jamal Murray 7'9". I struggle to play any of these guys. It's basically Jokic or Luka for me tonight. If the game stays close, Jokic could absolutely smash. I found myself getting more Luka shares though, so I'm under on the Nuggets side, and the Jazz. No, I can't get there. I can't play anyone on the Jazz side.
All right, DC, Luka. What's your thoughts on him here? Or not Luka? Jokic. Sorry, we're on the wrong game. Luka.
I'm with AP. I do prefer Luka in general, but I do think it's close. I mentioned this often. Jokic does do better in general when he's at home, which he is here. I kind of thought Jokic was going to come out of the gates a little slow after winning the championship, spending, it seemed like, all off season back home, maybe be a little bit out of shape, but man, not the case. He has looked absolutely just as good as he was last year, just a dominant force. And even the minutes, he didn't play a single minute in the fourth quarter yesterday and still got 30 minutes, right? He was at 30 minutes through not even the end of the third quarter. And so now on the back-to-back, he's going to be fresh and ready to go because he didn't have to play a single minute in the fourth quarter back at home. I think Jokic could just absolutely go off here. Kind of expect, frankly, triple-double out of him tonight. And I haven't tried to build it. I don't know if it's possible to get Luka and Jokic in your lineups, but something I might be interested in because you might get two 75 burgers out of both of them tonight. So, yeah, Jokic or bust on the Nuggets, and then I'm not playing any Jazz tonight.
Yeah, I know, man. I know Peyton Watson has been good, but I might be willing to give the guarantee like last week, no Caleb Houston. Peyton Watson, I don't know. It's an 11-game slate. I don't think Peyton Watson is the move there, but I'll say this. I pulled the game logs, and I didn't realize how good he's been in his time. So I think that's more of a showdown slate or 2-game slate kind of thing, not an 11-game slate for me. Let's go to the last game. And it's one that I think these Lakers are going to play, right? It seems like LeBron and AD are both going to play, but you never know on the second night of a back-to-back for these Lakers. They are going up against Orlando. It's definitely a game that I think the Lakers should win, and they probably want to play these guys early on, at least now, right? They'll give them breaks later on in the season, probably more when we get closer down the stretch, and they're actually banged up. So DFS-wise, it's kind of tougher for me to click on these Lakers, and then when you look at the Magic, I mean, Banchero at 7'9", it doesn't feel like this is the right matchup. If he was playing the Wizards, sure, at 7'9", maybe I'd be interested in it, but this one feels like a full fade to me, at least on DraftKings. AP, how about you?
Yeah, so I thought it was going to be one of those interesting slates to where we have a game on an island where it's starting all by itself late tonight on the West Coast, and LeBron James, Anthony Davis, the game went to overtime yesterday on a back-to-back, played 39, 40 minutes. I thought these guys were really likely to rest, but they got probable tags, and Anthony Davis isn't on the report at all. So it looks like they are, adhering to the new rules, to the new anti-rest rules. But they play at a slow pace, and they've been playing really good defense. So on a back-to-back, I don't think I need to risk it. Again, if any news pops up, adjust to it. But we haven't seen anything, and I like this early slate. So if I get screwed and like LeBron gets ruled out randomly, even though he's probable now, if it happens, it happens. I move on to the next slate. But I don't really have a ton of interest in this game. I mean, D'Angelo Russell, 6'1", but still, like, I respect this defense that, Jalen Suggs, really good defender. Austin Reeves hasn't been good. So I'm definitely going to end up under on this game entirely.
All right, DC, you under on this game too?
Yeah, I'm not going to have much of this game. It's kind of the bailout game, right? If things go poorly for you early on, you need some low-owned plays. I think this game has plenty of guys that you can play. Of course, Anthony Davis, LeBron, D'Angelo Russell, like all these guys, Paolo, they're all fine, but certainly not priority plays. And if a bunch of these guys into my lineups, probably not going super well. Prior to that, of course, like every game, if there's late news, that would certainly change things. If any of the Lakers studs ended up sitting for whatever reason, but not expected at the moment. And then talked about it on Friday, I believe. Orlando is running like a true second unit, a true 5-man second unit, where I think there's going to be a lot of games where they outplay the starters. You can see it here. Lakers get out to a hot start. The Magic, both teams' second units come in, and the second unit for the Lakers is so bad, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Magic guys outplay them and stay on the court longer. I just don't trust the minutes for really any of the Orlando guys. So, yeah, definitely under on this game overall.
And we also got Paolo is 7K on FanDuel. I do agree over there. It's a little bit more enticing for sure, but not on DraftKings as much. And listen, I really want to give the plays of the day. I want to give you Snyder, but I don't think I can. I mean, 505 watching, and we got 160 likes. It's just not going to cut it. I'm sorry. I tried. I begged and pleaded, and we're already over time. I gave you 8 extra minutes to kind of figure it out. So, AP, I know you're a softie for this. I'm not asking.
We'll drop them in Discord.
There we go.
I like mine.
Yeah, we're going to drop them in Discord. AP likes his, and AP has been on fire. So, you're going to have to go sign up. Use that code NBA15 to get you 15% off. Give us 2 minutes. Listen, I don't have 2 minutes. Max, I got to give you 30 seconds, and 2 minutes is too much. So we got to get on out of here. So for me, Mangone, for DC, for AP, who's been absolutely crushing it. We'll see you guys later.